Well, today I've got a special guest joining me. I've got Lachlan Mineeff. Now, Lachlan is a racing driver. Now, his experience includes karting, which is where all the greats start. He's also raced in Formula Ford in the 86 series, and most recently, he has been racing in the TCR Australia series Super Cheap Auto TCR Australia series, where he was racing in a Volkswagen, but has more recently moved into an Audi RS3 LMS, the Forza Brakes motorsport team. So, Lockie, wonderful to have you here, mate. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott. Thanks so much for having me here. It's pleasure.
Mate, it's wonderful to have you here. So, for people who don't know you, so Lockie, mate, tell them a little bit about yourself and, mate, your current racing career.
Yeah, so I'm 19. I've been racing in cars since I was 14 in 2017 in Formula Ford and karting before that. As you mentioned, karting's kind of the great place to kind of cut your teeth and learn all about driving from a young age. I first had a drive in a go-kart when I was 7 and started racing when I was 10. So nearly been racing for kind of near 10 years now, which has been really, really cool. And obviously learning so much along the way and every lap that we're doing, especially these days, we're just learning so much. So been really enjoying it and very fortunate to have some great people support me to get me here where I am today. So really, really enjoying it. And keen to see what we can put together from here.
Mate, it's pretty wild. So so it was into karting first?
Yeah, that's right. So my family has a background in motorsport, not necessarily kind of circuit racing. My dad and my uncle, they raced dirt track speedway, so sprint cars back in the kind of 80s and 90s. And kind of from that, spent a lot of my time in 4 and 5 and 6 years old at kind of Parramatta Speedway in Sydney that kind of every Saturday night over the summer we'd spend there and kind of anything cars, wheels or engines or motorsport I fell in love with. So when I was 7, Dad got me a go-kart and I think we were kind of hooked from there. So since the first lap in the kart when I was 7, I knew exactly that was what I wanted to do and trying to stay in it as much as we can and really enjoying everything that we've done till now.
Mate, it seems to be a very familiar story. If the old man's into it, there's a very good chance that you'll end up trackside. Tell me a little bit, I'm sure you won't be an expert on all the ins and outs, but tell me a little bit about your dad's racing career there.
Yeah, so Dad, in kind of the early 80s there, a friend of his took him to the Speedway in Sydney, and from there he just kind of fell in love with it, and he did whatever he could to make sure that he could, get out and compete. So worked really hard and saved all his money to, obviously kind of turn himself into a bit of an entrepreneur to try and afford and pay for it all. And that's exactly what he did. So kind of when he was younger, kind of flipping cars, and obviously worked as a mechanic during the week, but then on weekends and Friday nights and things would buy cars, doing them up, flip them, and kind of make the money there to afford to go racing. And then that's kind of where he morphed into buying and selling of anything, cars, bikes, motorbikes, trucks, but that's where he's kind of done for the last 25 or 30 years. So that's kind of where he started to get into motorsport and went straight into the top level in speedway, which is sprint cars. And at the time, obviously bought a car and an engine and competed, and had the car in the back of an open trailer and had no idea about what he was doing, no idea about the setup of the car or how to, properly drive them. He just, had a whole heap of fun doing it. And from there, obviously, our family at that point hadn't had too much of an involvement in motorsport at all. And he was really kind of the pioneer in learning, what to do and how to do it. And then, from there, my uncle, which is Dad's younger brother, was kind of about kind of obviously looking at Dad and what he was doing and was really interested in that. And then obviously
I need a bit of this in my life.
As Dad kind of learned, what to do and what not to do and met all the right people. my uncle jumped in after that and picked up everything that Dad learnt and took it from there. So in Australia, the youngest you can race a sprint car is at 16 years old. And my uncle Justin, he obviously picked up everything that Dad had learnt, and by the time he was 16, he was competing in sprint cars and winning feature races as a year 10 student. So that was pretty cool.
Madness. And with Speedway, what do you find the big attraction there? Because I'm never a man that got sucked into the world of sideways in the dirt. Talk to me about the appeal of Speedway.
Obviously, having a family involvement definitely kind of helped the attraction. But I have a massive amount of respect for dirt track racing and specifically sprint cars. The cars themselves are just so pure. They're a V8 methanol powered, naturally aspirated with no gearbox. So the cars have to be push started with a car behind, and just the stats and figures on them are incredible. Well, they weigh 650 kilos. They have 900 horsepower. So way more than a 1-to-1 ratio of horsepower to kilos of weight. And that's, significantly more than, a Formula One or a NASCAR in terms of power to weight. The cars are extremely light, so they handle incredibly. And obviously the big wings on the top of them create a lot of downforce. So, yeah, the racing is just so pure. Obviously it's very different to circuit racing. But something that I have a massive amount of respect for. And my brother now is kind of jumped into a sprint car, and he's been really enjoying that. And I'm certainly very, very keen to take the keys off him for a night or two and try and get some laps in it. But that would be very cool and something I have a lot of respect for.
Give it a whip around. And see, this is one of the things I've realized about your family is it's just pure madness. They got two sons racing in two different series. Because how old's your younger brother now?
So my young brother's 16. So he's ever since he was racing karts as well from kind of 8, 9, and 10 years old, and kind of once he got to around 12 years old and he had to make the kind of step from the cadet class into the junior class, he committed to what he wanted to do, which was sprint car racing, and decided to park the go-kart up and spend kind of four years waiting and getting himself ready for a sprint car drive. So yeah, that was full credit and respect to him to really committing to what he wants to do. And now that he's 16, he's jumped straight into the top class. And that's kind of like in a circuit racing equivalent, not racing anything, jumping straight into a V8 supercar, obviously. He's skips a lot of the junior divisions, which if you kind of do that, taking a vision that you're going to spend a couple of years learning, by the time he's 18 or 19, he should be really, really competitive. And he's done 2 meetings so far and hasn't put a foot wrong at all the whole way. And we're really keen to see how he's going to go in that.
That's pretty awesome. Now, obviously, Speedway didn't speak to you the same way it spoke to your old man and your brother. You've been called to circuit racing. Seems to be what speaks to you the most. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's right. I guess it's kind of in when you're the age of 7 or 8 years old, you've got the kind of the main way into motorsport at all is tarmac karting, and then obviously through that, we chased the karting route and went all the way up through the junior class to when I was 14. And obviously at that point, you've committed for 7 years driving on tarmac in karting. You really start to learn the ropes there. And I guess the biggest thing for us is that circuit racing, in Formula Ford specifically, in our circumstance, you can start racing at 14, whereas Speedway is an age of 16. And with kind of karting is fantastic, obviously, at the age of from that 7 to 14 range, where there's no other motorsport that you can do. It's fantastic. It's the best thing that you could ever do. But from there we were just kind of, after karting and a couple of state championships and things, we were just looking for something different, and moved into Formula Ford. And obviously I have a lot of respect for Speedway, and however, I think there's probably a bit more of an opportunity to make a career in circuit racing, and not that's the specific single reason that we went circuit racing. It's just kind of natural progression, and the people that we met in karting had got us to move into Formula Ford. But yeah, obviously, and then once we were there in Formula Ford, you'd had a couple of seasons under our belt. We're really starting to learn and get some momentum. And yeah, it wasn't something that we're looking to do to move on even into Speedway, which was something completely different. So yeah,
Totally.
we've circuit racing route, and obviously really enjoying it. I wouldn't want it any other way. But yeah, I'm sure a weekend or two in a sprint car would be awesome for me.
Just for a bit of fun, mate. Rip it up in the dirt.
Right. That's right.
Now, for people that aren't familiar with Formula Ford, do you want to explain that category and that vehicle to us?
Yeah, so again, like a sprint car, a Formula Ford is extremely pure. There's nothing on that car that isn't there just in a sole purpose to make it fast, and no extra luxuries on top. So they're a space frame chassis, so obviously all tube and bar work there. They weigh 500 kilos, so obviously for a circuit racing car, extremely light.
Really?
They're a 4-speed H-pattern gearbox with a dog box, so no synchromesh gears. So you've really got to learn how to match the revs and things like that. And yeah, obviously the cars have they don't have a slick tire, and they don't have any downforce or aerodynamics in that sense. So yeah, the cars move around a lot. And obviously, yeah, you look at the onboards of the cars, and the drivers are always up on the wheel, and obviously
correcting.
with no downforce, obviously the cars can race extremely close. So yeah, Formula Ford, it's shown in history that the very best drivers from Formula Ford have gone on to do very good things in all routes of circuit racing, and kind of their supercars, and guys like Mark Webber in Formula One and Will Power in IndyCar have come from Australian Formula Ford. So we're really happy with our time there. We did that with the CHE racing team from Canberra, and they did a fantastic job preparing the car. And yeah, we did a year in 2017 where we did a couple of New South Wales State Series rounds, and then 2018 and 19 we committed to the National Series, and we finished 5th in both of those years. So yeah, we're really happy with our time there. You learn so much as a driver, obviously driving the cars, setting the cars up, racecraft. There's just so many different things that you can pick up from it. And yeah, we loved our time in Formula Ford. It was really cool.
Can imagine. And so after Formula Ford, what happens next?
Yeah, so that kind of in 2019 was our last season in Formula Ford, and we actually had a Toyota 86 production car that we had originally when I was 13, and we were looking at kind of options to move out of karting. We were looking to move to the New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship, which is a series for cars that are based off road cars that have been modified slightly in terms of safety with roll cages, and obviously safety equipment that are in race cars. They've got a controlled semi-slick tire, obviously all the upgrades to brakes and fuel system to make them, proper race cars. And then it races in a class system. So you've got everything from, BMW M3s and M4s to Suzuki Swifts in the Class E. So you've got 5 classes in that, classes A, B, C, D, and E. The Toyota 86 that we had was Class D. So it was obviously a really good series that it teaches you different things. But being honest, in our time where I was at 14, Formula Ford was probably a better category. So we were committed to go down the Toyota 86 route. But just as I was 13, about to be 14, the Confederation of Australian Motorsport, as it was at the time, CAMS, changed the minimum age from to race a production car, which was 14 at the time, to 15. So that meant that we would have had to have a year off guidelines. So yeah, that's kind of threw plans up pretty quick there, as we'd committed to go to race the 86, and I was now not going to be old enough. So we made the call to race Formula Ford, which was still being able to, you could still race at 14, which, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The Formula Ford, say at Eastern Creek, is about 20 seconds a lap faster than the Toyota 86, and being open wheeler, arguably a little bit kind of more dangerous and things. So yeah, we didn't quite understand the ruling there, but we had no control over that, so we moved into Formula Ford, and that was probably the best call that we made. So yeah, we were really happy with that, but we still had the production car there, and that was eligible for the Bathurst 6 Hour. So the Bathurst 6 Hour happens at Easter every year. It's the biggest production car race in the country for production cars only. 6 hours, Bathurst, 2 or 3 drivers. And yeah, obviously, what's not to love about that? Obviously, the best track in the country, and some really cool cars. Obviously, production cars being based off road cars, you can't drive them flat out for 6 hours. You've got to really look after your equipment and be obviously really smart with your strategy and things, and make sure that you're positioned well for the last hour of the race. Then you can go attack. So we did the
Really push
6
it.
hour.
Yeah.
That's right. So we did the 6 hour in 2019. Myself and Tom Sargent. At the time, we were 16 and 17 years old, which is 16 was the youngest you can race at Bathurst. So, yeah, we were all quite green there, both of our first times at Bathurst, and yeah, we had a really good event. We had a bit of a funny story with that event. We obviously with being such a long race, there's a lot of attrition that's involved, and you've really got to try and make yourself last all the way to the end. And yeah, because these cars are based off their road going counterparts, we had a road car that we'd lent off a friend that was sitting in the car park, just in case we needed something little, like might have knocked the mirror off or need a radiator cap or something. But yeah, Tom Sargent, my co-driver, started the race and doing really well 40 minutes in, and yeah, heading up the mountain, I had an engine failure. So that was a bit gut-wrenching for us, seeing the car kind of go up in smoke, and car parked on the side of the road. And yeah, obviously for us, we were pretty devastated at the time, seeing that only 40 minutes in. And yeah, the pretty crazy thing is that yeah, it was kind of 40 minutes in that we had had the car lose the engine, and yeah, kind of about 40 minutes after that, we managed to finally get the car back to the garage. Kind of just the way that the race went with no safety cars, the car wasn't able to be brought back to the garage, and with about at the hour 20 mark, the team had the car back in the garage, and we looked at the spare car and went, yeah, look, there's an engine in that car. We can let's have a crack at trying to get it out. So we it was crazy. We probably had around I'd say around 8 people in the donor car engine bay stripping the engine out, and then at the same time we probably had 6 people in the race car engine bay pulling that out too. And then yeah, it ended up taking us around 2 hours to have an engine out of the donor car, an engine out of the race car, and an engine back in the race car. And with about the 3 hour mark to go, we had the engine change. So that was pretty incredible to do a mid-race engine change. When you go to your dealer to see an engine change, it's probably a 6-week job for them. But yeah, we had the engine change and popped out, and we're back in the race. So I took over the car after they'd done the engine change. We did a full lap and pulled back in the pits just to make sure all the oil lines and everything was
plugged in
right. And it was. Yeah, we went back out. So that was pretty crazy to be able to do an engine change in the middle of the race, and we got back out there and we finished. So at 16 and 17, Tom and I were the youngest finishers of an endurance race at Bathurst, which was pretty cool. And obviously that was our goal, just to make the finish line. We obviously certainly didn't plan to do an engine change halfway through, but yeah, that's the way that Bathurst goes. And yeah, obviously that was all pretty cool. So to make the finish there was awesome. And then yeah, both myself and Tom, we wanted redemption for the Bathurst 6 hour, and we'd entered the 2020 Bathurst 6 hour that was ultimately cancelled, like a lot of things in 2020 that year. But yeah, we rolled our entry over to the 2021 Bathurst 6 hour, and that went like a dream. It was an awesome event for us. There was 60 cars entered in the event, which is kind of near capacity for Bathurst, and yeah, we ended up winning our class, which was awesome. We had a fantastic battle with Ben Bargwana and Jude Bargwana in the Class D Volkswagen Golf that they were racing, and yeah, we obviously had a really big battle there with them guys, and strategy was what got us to win the race there. And yeah, we were a Class D car. Obviously, in the Bathurst 6 hour, you've got the addition of Class X. So you've got Class X, which is for extreme production cars, and you've got A, B, C, D, and E. And then we're obviously a D car, and we finished 15th outright out of 60 cars, which was awesome.
Yeah, wow.
So on track, we were only beaten by Class X and Class A cars. So there's a lot of kind of Class B V8 Commodores and like that we'd beaten. So yeah, that was a true credit to the team for putting a super reliable car together and nailed the strategy. And Tom and I drove the wheels off the thing, and it was a class win. So it was a really, really cool event. Obviously, to get so many laps in Bathurst was really cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of the way the stints and everything panned out. We had only 3 pit stops, so your average stint time is around an hour and a half there. And our middle stint there in the race was an hour and 58 minutes. And I guess the only thing that happened all day that went wrong was they didn't change the water bottle in the car for that pit stop. So I had
Brutal.
an hour and 58 minutes at Bathurst. In the temperature outside was about 30 degrees ambient.
Oh,
You can add about 20 degrees for the cabin temperature. So
inside the car is revolting.
Around 50 degrees for nearly 2 hours with no water. So I was pretty shagged after that one, that's for sure.
Mate,
but
you would have been parched.
Get it over to Tom, and we kept going, and all ended out really well. So that was an awesome event, and really keen to kind of one day hopefully enter back in that. But now all our focus is in TCR that we're really keen on.
Yeah, and mate, going to Bathurst for the first time, because I mean it's obviously a very special track here in Australia. One of the things that blew me away was when I was involved in motor racing over in Europe, was people had come up to you, and obviously in Europe, mate, they got all the most stunning tracks. You know, most of the most stunning tracks in the planet are located over there. And you're talking to people over at Nürburgring, and they're going, "Oh, can't wait to come over and race at Bathurst." And it's pretty special that our little Aussie track has that sort of notoriety, because it's wild. What was it like for you going and racing there that very first time?
Oh, it's definitely surreal. Like I've grown up watching the race on TV, and not being too far away from Bathurst, going plenty of times. And obviously the prestige and the history at that track is just incredible. And that's not even mentioning just how cool the track is, obviously, to drive. It's purely like no other. The elevation that the circuit has, obviously, how blind the circuit is across the top of the mountain, the speeds that you reach down Conrod Straight, there's just nothing like it at all. And we're really fortunate to race there multiple times now, and the very first time was just unreal. Obviously, you head up Mountain Straight, and obviously even that has some rise and fall in it. And through coming obviously up the top of the mountain into the Karting for the first time. Wow, obviously just the elevation seriously gets you. That's probably the biggest thing that you notice. And then obviously after that, a couple of laps in, once you're trying to get a groove and get yourself get your head in the game. Obviously just how blind the track is. You've really got to commit to the track and trust your car that the track hasn't changed lap to another. Obviously you're turning in at some pretty big speeds, and you can't really see what's 100 or 200 meters ahead of you. So obviously super incredible place. And obviously you've really got to change your approach to it like any other track. Obviously you got tracks like with full credit to them, obviously all our permanent tracks here that you can just head out the gate and push straight away. You might find yourself at Bathurst where might have done practice 1, practice 2 qualifying, and it might only be race 1 or 2 that you're really starting to push. And obviously there's plenty of famous accidents at the track there. And we're really trying to keep obviously keeping your car straight is the biggest thing there. You don't
Number
learn
one.
the damaged car. So we're been fortunate to race there plenty of times now, and really starting to get a good handle of the place. But even I'm sure after your 20 or 25th Bathurst, you're still learning plenty of things there. So we're really keen. Really obviously.
I was going to say it's a very unforgiving track, because you've got no runoff, you've got that wild elevation change, you've got the high speeds. There's not a lot, because most of the tracks around Australia, I mean, Phillip Island's probably the second most elevation change. I'm trying to think of another. There's a little bit of a hill at Barbagallo, but most of the tracks around the country, like, they're pretty flat.
Yeah, that's 100% right there. Obviously, in terms of total elevation, gain and fall, your Phillip Island's probably your biggest bet. But obviously, it's not completely key to have to have elevation in a good track. But yeah, it's just so different to anything else. And
Anything else?
yeah,
Yeah.
the first time you drive around there, it certainly gets. I guess you look around at other circuits around the world. It's probably got some of the biggest kind of difference in points, high to low. So
Yeah.
I think it's
And those
it's
blind corners and mate, coming through the
100%.
S's and the whole thing's just madness. Now,
It
mate,
is.
you've gone from so Formula Ford, the 86. You've done some endurance racing. Why TCR? What appealed to you about that category?
I think TCR is a really nice, fresh, kind of exciting category for Australia. Obviously, traditionally, V8 Supercars has really had a real big reign on the Premier, as a Premier category in Australia. And obviously, with full, credit and respect to supercars, I've grown up wanting to, drive and race a V8 supercar. And however, I think TCR, obviously, it's still a new category in Australia. Only started in 2019, and we're only in our third season as a category. I think is a really, really nice refresh. It's been extremely well promoted with some really top level teams and drivers competing, and obviously the cars have a really strong tie to Europe and overseas, being a global category. There's a World TCR Championship and now a TCR World Tour, as it'll be called, next year, and obviously 30 regional categories all throughout the world, throughout Australia, New Zealand, Asia, the US, Europe. There's pretty much any corner of the globe, you'll be able to find a TCR series. So I think the fact that obviously you look at V8 supercars and, the cars are so unique. You're racing against drivers that have been driving them for 15 or 20 years. And obviously the amount of resource and experience that those drivers have in those cars are, as a young driver, it's going to take you years and years and years to be able to get up to a level of those drivers in those cars. Whereas TCR, it's fresh, it's something different. Obviously, Australia hasn't had a front-wheel drive Premier category in a very long time, and I feel like the kind of combination of front-wheel drive and the TCRs being unique means that top-level drivers can jump in the cars, and their years and years and years of experience, while will be applicable, isn't completely controlling of their experience in the cars and the lap time. So it allows kind of younger drivers like me and many others to really take it to some experienced drivers, and I think that's great for our profile, to be able to have some really good references in the category for both teams and drivers. Like young driver in a private team, to be able to take it to some really big names is a really cool thing for us. So yeah, we really like the formula and the way that the categories run here in Australia, and I think it's got a really good future here for teams in Australia, and then drivers in Australia and overseas.
I totally agree with you, because I think, the hard thing for a lot of series, and, you see a lot come and go, unfortunately, because, motorsport is expensive, motorsport is difficult, it's complicated. There's a lot that goes into putting in a big series. And the fact that TCR is a global category, it's got strong manufacturer support. And I love, personally, I love the diversity of the brands and the fact that there's more coming in. When you've got, Honda and Alfa Romeo and Volkswagen and Audi, like you've just got such a wonderful spread of vehicles. I just think that that's sensational for motor racing.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I think they're up to now 15 or 16 different manufacturers that have a homologated TCR car for competition, and obviously it makes so much sense on so many levels. Obviously, it's applicable for manufacturers and OEM suppliers and businesses in the automotive industry there. Whereas you compare it to a V8 supercar, and in at least in its current guise in Gen 2. The only real applicable part from a road car might be the badge or door handles. But
the door handles, mate. The rest of the things, they're a steel. Oh, sorry, they're a tube frame chassis. So
yeah,
I think
right.
that was the hardest thing when I went and saw them. And you're like, oh, hang on, that's not. It's not because I mean, it's something I always enjoyed about, I guess, 80s and 90s motor racing, where they were, literally a road car but spec'd up.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that really relates to TCR. Obviously, you've got a full floor plan of a road car. You've got all but a road engine, all road doors and things like that. So there's so many different parts, and take nothing away from V8 supercars. It's a
Oh, of
obviously
course.
a great example of the engineering and things that goes on in Australia and the design of these cars to
Yeah.
be able to do 1,000 k's or jump curbs at the Gold Coast or anything like that. They're extremely cool cars, but obviously TCR, it certainly brings the cost down for the teams, which is important. And I guess it doesn't
That's it.
matter if you're upright and the car costs $20,000 or
Yes.
$1,000. It's still going to make the racing really good. So we're really happy with TCR and the formula, and it works well for a more privateer team. And we're really happy to be here. And the longer we can be in TCR, the better, I think.
I think so too. And I think that the fact that it is, more applicable for a privateer team, because again, to, be a privateer in supercars, I mean, that's a big exercise. That is not mucking around. Whereas, even though, there is still a significant barrier to entry, it's nowhere near as ridiculous as sort of some of those other categories. And I really do think that is, again, it's wonderful for motorsport. Now, mate, you started in a Volkswagen. So talk to me, why the Volkswagen? What was the opportunity there?
So we moved into the Volkswagen at the start of 2021, so around kind of February, March. We missed the first round of the 2021 season. That was at Simmons Plains, but we lined up for the second round that was at Phillip Island, and that worked out really well. Obviously, the car was available for sale, and we did a little bit of a deal to kind of do a bit of a kind of try before you buy, I guess you could call it, at Phillip Island, and we worked out a way to put all that together, and obviously ran all the costs and got a really good group of sponsors on board that helped us for that weekend. And from there we were pretty much hooked on TCR from there. So I guess that was a pretty big race meeting for me. I hadn't raced, obviously, with 2020 and COVID. I hadn't raced at that point for 18 months. I'd never raced a tin top in a sprint race. I'd never driven a left drive race car in a race. I'd never raced on a slick tyre. I'd never barely driven a front-wheel drive car at all. Driven the Volkswagen and hadn't sat in it till the Wednesday of the race meeting. So, there was a huge meeting, and obviously we certainly didn't set our expectations too high. It was our first weekend as a privateer team. We had assistance from Melbourne Performance Centre, but our first weekend with I had a new engineer for the first time. Crew. So that was a pretty big eye opener, that one. But we just kept learning and putting the laps in, and not trying to make any mistakes and things like that. But we had our first race, and 20 cars in the grid, pretty understandably qualified 20th, and we were kind of around that 2-second mark off the pace. But all things, we're pretty happy with that. And the cars, all the kind of TCR teams, they transport the cars on wet tires, which are kind of called travel tires, as they're called. And it was around kind of 2 or 3 o'clock, and we're lining up for race one, and probably about half an hour before the race, the heavens open, and it was completely, like, obviously massive rain. The track was soaked. About to line up for my first TCR race, and we're kind of thinking, do we go and spend probably $2,500 on a new set of wet tires? And we're looking at our options and thought, look, probably best to run the car on the travel tires, which are at that stage, I think they're around 18 months old, and kept in the sun, so the tires weren't very, very flash at all.
Not the best.
Andy, who's been with us ever since that round, he's obviously does a fantastic job on the car, and he's from DNA Autosport in Sydney, and we kind of got the travel tires, and obviously a new tire that Andy'd worked with, so pressured him how we thought, and we rolled off the grid in off the back in 20th, and kind of obviously got the car off the line, and that was all good. And as you can imagine, the wet tires in TCR, the Michelin tire is incredible. It's got so much grip in the wet weather, and obviously the way that the tread blocks are constructed, it throws up a lot of water, which is good. Obviously disperses the water, and that's more performance. But kind of for me in 20th in off the back, with 19 other cars in front of us, the amount of spray that was thrown up in the air by the water was incredible. So, I literally couldn't see anything. I could
Couldn't
probably
see.
see the cars in front of me and their rain lights, and that was about it. So kind of,
Oh,
driving by feet, by braille, with kind of where the
brutal.
track is, and see what's wet and what's dry on track in terms of puddles and things. But we just kept the car on the track and kept slowly picking off the positions. And it was a 20 lap race, that one. And just kind of kept slowly moving our way forward. And then we kind of got to, I think, just kind of obviously some cars are falling off, and we just kept going and going and made some really good overtakes. And we ended up in our first TCR race in classified in ninth. So that was unreal to move forward 11 spots. And obviously from there, I think we needed some results of around 12th and 13th to finish the weekend there. But that was an awesome meeting for us. And
Massive.
we're obviously stoked from there. And then after that, we had another meeting at Sydney Motorsport Park, which was a local round. And again, just learning TCR. We had a pretty different crew again that weekend, just a few more guys on board and really trying to find our feet. And then that was a really good round for us. And then had a probably what was about a 6-month break with some events getting cancelled towards the end of 2021 there. And then we had our first TCR round at Bathurst in December, which was an incredible event, and definitely by far the coolest event that I've ever competed in. So that was the Bathurst 1000 in 2021, and that was a 6-day event, and with 10 categories competing. So that was kind of the kind of mecca of motorsport in Australia in terms of track. All the best categories that you could ever think of competing. So, that was a great weekend for us. We had our best result in TCR to date, which was a 6th place in the long 50-minute race, and that's what we've got again this weekend. So, hopefully we can duplicate that a bit in our Audi.
Now, one of the things I did want to talk to you about, like the business of motorsport. So, mate, one of the things I've been very impressed with is the team of people that you've built around you. And again, you've done most of this independently, as I understand. Like this isn't your folks running this for you. This is you running this team. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously, great to have plenty of good people around me helping out. But that's right. So I run Purple Sector, which is a business that obviously competes in motorsport and in TCR, and then obviously that is what obviously is our entity and our team name, and then obviously from there I work hard with others. Paul, our team manager, who is a sponsor as well, he's been incredible for us, and certainly wouldn't be anywhere near TCR without his support. But obviously between myself and Paul as team owner and Paul as team manager, we put in plenty of hours, talking with our current sponsors and obviously trying to branch out into future and potential partners as well. And always trying to work really hard to help service their needs and make a really good time out of TCR and our team. And obviously really enjoying that. I'm learning so much as kind of a driver and also in business as well. But obviously definitely we obviously now have our cars in a local workshop that we do all the work and prep and servicing in, with some of the larger servicing items. We use DNA Autosport in Sydney for their help. But probably 90% of the work now we're doing ourselves, which is really good. Obviously, learning a lot, controlling the costs and things. I think as a kind of driver and team owner, I'm learning a lot on kind of that level. And really see how we go.
It's massive. As a 19-year-old man, I mean, mate, I was a loose cannon at TAFE. I was drinking beers and, swimming. Whereas, you're there, running a motorsport team, running the business, behind the team, working with your sponsors, attracting new team partners. Like there is a lot going on in that, mate. And I honestly, I take my hat off to you because it's very impressive, what you guys have built there. Now, you mentioned Paul. So Paul Fry from VAG Parts. Mate, do you want to tell me a little bit about that, how that came together?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. So I guess going right back in around kind of 2018 was when I met Paul, and at the time I was there was a local sim center that started up in Bowral, which is our local town where I live, and obviously it's a small country town, and pretty unique for it to have a sim center like that was started up. And obviously through that, I went there a lot, and at the time I didn't have a sim at home, so I used that a lot to prepare for upcoming events and different cars and things that I was driving, and that worked out really well. And obviously, obviously in such a small town and a niche, a niche business, the customers that were going to the sim centers were, really kind of getting involved in what was, started up a really nice community there. So, obviously with that, I was 15 at the time, and obviously talking with plenty of the kind of guys there that were racing against, and some of them had some nice road cars, some Porsches and Ferraris and things, and through that I met. Well, we went on a road drive with some of the guys there. So I wasn't even old enough to have my learner's permit at the time, but tagging along with these guys in some cool cars, and going through mountain runs and things. Obviously Barrel's got some great scenery and driving roads, so that was all really well. And a friend of Paul's, Nathan, I was with him that day, and he invited Paul down from Sydney, and Paul and I met, and Paul's got an awesome Audi RS6 sedan, which is obviously V10 turbo is pretty cool car, and we just got talking, and from there I found out a little bit about what Paul done, and we kept in touch. And Paul supported us through both Bathurst 6 hour events that we did there, that we spoke about before. So his business solo work, he'd been partnered with us for that event, and all worked out really well. And we just kept talking, and obviously Paul's business with VAG Parts, which is Volkswagen and Audi Group parts. Obviously TCR was on his radar as a motorsport category, and that was the time that it was in its infancy in 2019. And we kept talking, and obviously the Volkswagen Golf that we looked at the start of 2021 really made sense for his business, and we formed an alignment, an agreement there, and kind of the rest is history. So it all went really well there, and Paul is just I can't thank him enough for all the hours and everything that he puts in. He's started as a sponsor, and it's really taken it by the scruff of the neck, and really pushed hard to make our team and all the driving possible. So he's been really fantastic for our team, and can't thank him enough there. And obviously really enjoying all the time, and now in the Audi, it obviously still aligns really well with his business, and we're keeping from there. So it's worked out really well.
Now, you've moved obviously this year. You've gone from the Volkswagen. The Audi came available, and you've done a deal on that and stepped into that car. How have you found the transition between, so you've two different marques that you've run this year?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, when we got both cars side by side in the workshop, you look over it, and you would really be surprised to see how there could be much of a difference between the Volkswagen and the Audi. You open the engine bay, both identical engines, gearbox, drivetrain, kind of cooling components. There's so many common parts. All the interior, looks all but identical. Dash, or steering wheel, all the electronics, switch panels, they're all the same. But the main difference between the Volkswagen and the Audi is obviously the Volkswagen is a hatch and the Audi is a sedan. And just the way that the air runs over the rear of the car in the sedan means that there's a lot less drag that comes off the rear of the car, and also means that there's a little bit more rear downforce as well. So in some of the tracks that we're racing at this year, in TCR, the Volkswagen isn't quite suited to some of the longer straights that we race at. It's exceptional in under brakes and handling, but really just struggles a little bit in some of the longer straights. But it's got so many positives. It's an extremely reliable car. It's economical to run in terms of looking at other brands in TCR, and but where we're at in TCR, we're just really chasing, and obviously the field is just so close. You look at Phillip Island earlier in the year in qualifying, and the difference between first and 21st was less than a second. So you really can't leave anything on the table there. And obviously we kind of the way that it all kind of opened up is that kind of mid-season that the Audi that we purchased was available, and we moved into that mid-season. So obviously that was a big change for us. We kind of obviously just thought that we'd be best to commit to the Audi for the final 3 rounds of the season, and really focus on a season for for 2023, and use this year to kind of develop and get our heads around the car. So that's what we did. Obviously, the car's shown some really good glimpses of speed so far, and we just can't wait to get to Bathurst. We're probably the fastest car. We've gone from kind of the slowest car in a straight line to probably the fastest car in a straight line. So that's going to be really cool to see. And obviously, from what we had across the top of the mountain in the Gulf, I think we can easily transfer over to the Audi. So we're really just keen to see how we can go with that and go from there. But we're stoked with the Audi, and it's just exactly what we need as a team. And, down to me to put it all together.
And so obviously the Audi is backed by Forza Brakes Motorsport. Now, you had been working with Greg Latham and Forza with the Audi because they'd had their product, and I know that you'd been running them on the car previously. Tell me a little bit about your experience with Forza.
Yeah, it's been really good. Obviously, Greg and the team there have been supporters of our TCR program from round one in Phillip Island all the way last year, and that was a fantastic synergy again between Paul at VAG Parts and Greg at Forza. Paul sells all of Greg's Volkswagen Audi Group line of Forza product in Paul's online store, so that works out really well there. Obviously, Paul had a long and lasting relationship with Greg there, and using the motorsport program to really strengthen that relationship. So that's worked out really well. We've been using Forza brakes at every round that we've competed in TCR in both the Golf and the Audi now, and obviously with some of the agreements that they had earlier in the year, with the Audi, that kind of slowed up there with the other team, and we picked the car up and carried an agreement over with the car. So that worked out really well. And obviously, Greg and the team, they're great to have around, and really cool guys. And it's just so great to be able to be using their quality product exactly how it's sold to road cars on our TCR car. And obviously, with as I mentioned, how competitive and things TCR is. If the product wasn't good, we simply wouldn't be using it. So we're just a testament to the product that they sell, and obviously the support and service that we get from them, that can in all aspects of braking and everything in the car. Their support is fantastic. So I think it works out really well, the relationship here between Paul from VAG Parts, from Greg from Forza, and ourselves at Purple Sector. I think it works out really well, and just keen to see how Bathurst goes to round out the year.
Oh yeah, to really push it, because I think it's one of the lovely sort of examples of people that are interested in getting involved in motorsport. So they might not have ever sponsored a team or worked with a team, and they might not even know where to start, because motorsport can seem like something that might be a bit inaccessible. Like if you just go as a punter and you're behind the fence and you're not allowed into pit lane, for people like you and I who spend an awful lot of time around it and might have grown up around it, it's just normal and you sort of know everybody and like, oh, g'day, mate. But for businesses that haven't been involved before, what would be your advice to say, if you were keen to get involved in motorsport and potentially look at even things like technical partnerships? What would be your thoughts around that?
Yeah, for sure, and I guess it kind of stems back to as you mentioned, a lot of it, seems really really big and out of reach. But we're just all people, competing and doing what we love, and because of that, we're obviously really always working really hard to help our partners and get good value from that. So obviously, never be afraid to reach out at a racetrack. Any team of any level, can accommodate your needs from anything at all. So obviously, we're in the current day of social media and websites and everything. I feel like all the kind of teams and drivers are quite accessible now, and just don't be afraid to reach out, and I'm sure any team up and down pit lane would be more than happy to help you obviously work out an agreement there
and get involved, because it's one of those things where if you don't reach out and say good day, it's obviously not going to happen. Because I'd looked at, I remember even when my business was in its early days, and I remember seeing somebody I knew that had they were involved with a Porsche Cup car, and I remember thinking how cool it would be to have my company logo on a race car. And I mean, that just seemed so impossible. Whereas now, obviously I do some work with yourself, and it makes me so excited. Like, I'm so proud to be involved, with a great driver, a great team, really good people. And it's something that, brings a lot of joy. It's wonderful to be around. And I think that that's something that's, really important for, a driver sponsor relationship. Is it's got to be something that, that you enjoy. And that tends to be, and you would have seen it over the years, it's people that just love cars, love motorsport, love being around it. They do tend to be the people whose businesses end up being attracted to a bit of motor racing. I'm sure you've seen that over the years.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, yeah, and it's obviously you're 100% right there. But then also, like, we've had some community partnerships as well with some other businesses and things like that. Where they might have brought their staff or customers along that have never seen a race car on track or never even been to a racetrack, and kind of seeing their eyes light up at what this whole different environment is, in terms of being at a motorsport event is pretty cool to see also. But yeah, it's great to see so many different kind of people from all walks of life get involved in motorsport sponsorship. And yeah, obviously there's plenty of different ways now that you can really provide value to that. And there's just so much more that goes on to just a sticker on the car. And obviously,
Absolutely.
all plenty of ways that we put all that together. But yeah, I think it's all really cool with that. And yeah, obviously, seeing people being involved with our team and enjoying it is yeah, nothing better for us.
And mate, this weekend, obviously, you're heading to Bathurst. It's the final round of the TCR Australia series. And it's also worthwhile mentioning that the whole series is broadcast on Stan Sport. So there's wonderful coverage of this event. Talk to me about the weekend, mate. What's the plan? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? What are you nervous about?
Yeah, so obviously, anytime you go to Bathurst, it's pretty special. Obviously, for those that have been there, you drive down the road and you get closer and closer to Bathurst. Coming from the Blue Mountains, and you see a little speck on the horizon. It's Mount Panorama, and you get closer and closer, and you see the sign on the top of the hill. And yeah, obviously, there's nothing better than the feeling of I've been to Bathurst multiple times as both a spectator and then a driver, and it doesn't matter what level you're at there, it feels special every time. So obviously there's a few little butterflies, things like that, driving into the event, but once you're all set up, it's it means business. So we're really excited. And as I mentioned earlier, anytime you go to Bathurst, you're never flat out on lap one, like you are at other tracks, and you always just got to build up. And when the mountain bites, it bites hard, and you've just got to make sure that you can do everything that you can, so that's not you, and you're always learning. Obviously, if you have an incident, early in kind of a practice, it can take you out for a whole day or weekend. So yeah, you just need to keep putting the laps in. And yeah, obviously with TCR, we're really fortunate to be the headline category at this event. So we've got 3 50-minute races. So obviously, a lot longer than our traditional races. Our normal races are around 20 to 25-minute races. So obviously, with that, we're extremely lucky to be having such long races back. You got so many times so many laps to keep learning. So yeah, we'll obviously try and get some good laps in practice. And I think our new Audi, obviously first time at Bathurst in the Audi, we'll be able to kind of take everything we've learned with the Golf and move it on from there. And then yeah, keep on the laps in, and obviously qualifying on Saturday mornings, I think, when we'll be really having a big crack, and we'll go from there.
How good. Honestly, mate, that's as good as a weekend can ever get. Now, Lockie, I'm obviously conscious of your time. You've got a lot going on this week. And I'm delighted that you could spend some time with me this morning, mate. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, any time, Scott. Really appreciate your help, and obviously, yeah, awesome jump on the pod, and yeah, obviously, yeah, so keen to have you with us at Bathurst. It's going to be an awesome weekend, and yeah, I think it's going to be really good.
Mate, I'm hanging out. I'm driving down on Friday. Yeah, mate, my mechanic's getting the Land Cruiser checked over. I can't wait to be there. Now, buddy, if people want to follow you, how can people follow your adventures around the internet and everything that you're up to?
Yeah, so I guess I'm on most of the main social medias there, Instagram and Facebook. So my Instagram's at Lachlan Mineeff, 2 E's, 2 F's. And then obviously Facebook is Lachlan Mineeff Motorsport. And then also my website, which is lachlanmineeff.com.
Fantastic, mate. I'll throw the notes in the show notes. I'll put all the links there so people can follow you. Mate, best of luck for this weekend. I will see you in person at the mountain. And, mate, if people want to watch Stan Sport, Super Cheap Auto, TCR Australia this weekend, racing kicks off on Friday. Lockie, thanks for being with me this morning. We'll sign off there and we'll see you at the mountain.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, buddy.
Yeah.